The world is moving in the direction it is because it's been planned to do that.
What are you saying about the global elites? Are they doing this because they know better?
Do they really control everything? Or is it just like a group of smarter people?
World events are concentrating people's minds on the fact that the world isn't like they thought it was.
The next minutes could change your life forever.
Ephesians 6:12. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, and against the worldly governors, the princes of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness, which are in the high places.
If you look throughout history at the people who make a ripple in history for the better, Martin Luther King, Gandhi, John Lennon, what do they all have in common? They all got assassinated. Tupac, anybody who was making big ripples and telling the truth in a really beautiful way, inevitably gets offed, right? And so what you're seeing there is a brilliant person who has contacted truth with a good heart, who wants the world to be better, and actively pursues that goal successfully to the point where they rise into the mainstream and things do begin to change a little bit because of them. And then look what happens.
The Illuminati folks, they are extremely wealthy. They are very powerful. But there's a game afoot here. What do they want?
First of all, it's not a secret. We know who they are. It's Christine Lagarde, her first head of the IMF, her first deputy managing director, David Lipton, professors like Larry Summers and Ken Rogoff at Harvard, public intellectuals here in the UK, Dale Turner, Anatol Koletsky, Mario Draghi, head of the European Central Bank. So it's a collection of central bankers, finance ministers, academics, think tankers, and public intellectuals, and several hundred of them around the world who collectively run the international monetary system because they either run the central banks or the multilateral institutions, or they're in and out of finance ministries, or they have a lot of influence. So that's who they are.
They influence 90% of what happens.
Or more. Exactly.
Okay. So there's no secret that it's some other guy.
We know who they are.
For the desire of money is the root of all evil.
What they wanted to do was to revamp the world, change the world for the better, get us out from under the restrictions of church and state, and on like that. Well, needless to say, the church and state struck back. They outlawed them, forced them to go underground. Now, when they were forced to go underground, several things happened. Number one, all they did was they didn't give up on their philosophies, which, by the way, I call Illuminism. And that's the thing you have to keep in mind, is Illuminism. Illuminism is a lifestyle, a philosophy of life that fits right up there with communism, Nazism, feminism, capitalism, all the isms.
Look around. It's not been planned for 5 years or 10 years. It's been planned for a long time.
What do you see when you see the world today? And what should we be focused on? What are the big things that you see as, okay, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening?
What I'm seeing is more and more people beginning to question what they've not questioned before. That is incredibly encouraging. And I've just finished a world speaking tour over the last 18 months. I've been all over the world. It's happening everywhere. Without realizing that's what they're doing. It's a tiny number. So given the mathematics, you can't physically control your target population. There's not enough of you. Yes, you can do it through people in uniform, which is manipulating the target population to police the target population, but you can't do it en masse. What you need to do is control the perceptions of the population, because perception is everything. Perception dictates what you believe, what you don't believe, what you'll challenge, what you won't challenge, what you'll accept, you won't accept, support, won't accept, support, everything. Once they've got your perceptions, they've got you, and they've got your life, and they've got the collective perception, they have humanity. This is why they want to control the information that people receive, and to marginalize alternative ways of looking at the world. Because where do perceptions come from? They come from information received. When I look at the world, I see vast numbers of people who are perceptually programmed. When you look at a human life, it's basically a perceptual programming and download from cradle to grave. You know, you come out of the womb and immediately you're influenced by your parents in terms of your perceptions. And they're not being malevolent, most of the time anyway, the vast majority, but they've been through the system you're about to go through, the process you're about to go through. They've bought it, accepted it as normal, accepted the crazy place to be sane, and therefore out of wanting to do right for you, they'll pass those perceptions on to you. Take a deep breath, take a step back, look at it again. When you think about it, you come out of the womb and within 4 years, you've only just got here. You're sitting at a desk with an authority figure representing the state's version of everything in front of you, telling you when you have to be there, when you can leave, when you can speak, when you can go to the toilet, when you can eat, what is, what isn't, what's possible, what's not possible, and the nature of everything. We're seeing the Silicon Valley giants in the devil's playground, more and more algorithmically controlling the flow of information, using hoaxes like fake news. This plan has been around a long time. They have manipulated human perception by manipulating the information people receive. The plan is to go beyond that, where they are the perception. And what I'm talking about, of course, is artificial intelligence, which brings us back to the devil's playground, Silicon Valley, because that is increasingly the center. In the shadows is where it's coming from, but in terms of the world that you can see, Silicon Valley is becoming the center of global control. People will be shocked to see how deep Google, oh, it's just a search engine, and Facebook, oh, it's just a social media platform. To see how deep they are in the transhumanist agenda of connecting the human brain to artificial intelligence, so that artificial intelligence becomes the human mind. And that's not me pulling this out of the ether. I'm quoting there a Google executive, Ray Kurz, one of the global PR men for Frankenstein.
Is he a Google exec? I know he's at Singularity University.
He's a Google exec at the Singularity University.
Okay.
And he has said that by 2030, and that's a date, a year that keeps coming up again and again, 2030, the human brain will be started to be connected to artificial intelligence. And I'm quoting Kurzweil here. And then artificial intelligence will do more and more of human thinking until there is no human thought and artificial intelligence is doing it all. Now, why are they openly saying this? Because the sales pitch is it will make us superhuman. Because, especially the young, or will be the adults then, addicted to technology, is all about the here, kitty, 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 preparing people to accept this.
Did the Illuminati, I don't know what we call them, did they see the devil's playground coming? Or is the technology a bump in their plans?
Oh, they created it.
Here we go. If you haven't heard this before, you're going to take a deep breath.
Yeah.
And I'm going to talk about reptilian shapeshifters.
What most people will do because of this perceptual download, this postage stamp consensus, they'll say, load of rubbish, basically doing that. According to mainstream science, the electromagnetic spectrum is 0.005% of what exists in the universe. Some say it's a bit more, but not much. Visible light, which is the only frequency band that we can see, is a fraction, a tiny fraction, of the 0.005%. So humans, compared with what exists even in this universe, are basically blind. We don't live in a world, we live in a band of frequency. And then you look at that, people laugh at the fact that this world could be manipulated by a non-human force, when they can see a tiny fraction of 0.005% on a planet equivalent to a billionth size of a pinhead. The key to keeping people in perceptual servitude is to suppress the nature of reality itself. Because if people realize what I've just said, they are far more likely to say, well, hold on a minute then. If we can't see almost anything, then what else exists? Well, hold on a second. Look at the diversity of form in the human form, never mind the animal world and the insect world, that's operating within that tiny band of frequency. What the heck exists in terms of diversity of form beyond that, which is in the almost entirety of existence that we can't see? And when you come from that perspective, then non-human entities, that many taking a reptilian form, becomes far less fantastic. I've not sat in a darkened room pulling this out of the ether. I've researched all over the world. First of all, these entities operate in the unseen, overwhelmingly in the unseen. Because we, like I said earlier, live in a frequency band, a band of frequency. Anything beyond that frequency we can't see, we're not aware of. And, you know, people have no trouble accepting that the old analog system of radio and television stations are different frequencies sharing the same space without interfering with each other unless they're really close on the dial. The analog system, BBC One and ITV and CNN, they're sharing the same space, but they're just on different frequencies, and the television picks up different frequencies as you change the channel. Well, in the same way, worlds, or realities, it's a better term, are sharing the same space without interfering with each other unless they're very close on the dial. And so these, not just reptilian, but other non-human entities, are operating just outside of the human sight. And they have to have vehicles within our frequency band, within our world, that represent their interests, that are basically vehicles for them to manipulate our society. And so particular bloodlines were created that are hybrids, part reptilian, not always reptilian, but part reptilian, part human, which is the origin of the royal aristocratic bloodline, whole order of the ages. You know, the ancient Chinese emperors used to claim the right to be emperor because of their descendants from the serpent gods. And the reason that these royal bloodlines and aristocratic bloodlines have incessantly, obsessively interbred is because they're holding this hybrid genetic program. And for a long time, they ruled because they were the special bloodline. What is it? Just down the road from us now in London, we have a head of state, even today, who is head of state because of her bloodline.
The Queen.
The Queen. If she was a different bloodline, she might be cleaning the throne, not sitting on it. This is the nonsense of it. Why are you Queen? Because someone had sex with someone and that person was born first, therefore they're the monarch. Sorry, I thought we lived in a civilized society with some form of intelligence. What's going on?